Revelation 13 and verse 3. We're talking about the dragon. All right? The dragon. In Greek, he's called a dracon. See how much like English that is? Dracon, dragon. Now, the idea in the Old Testament, there was a seraphim, wasn't there? We talked about an angel that was a seraphim or something like a seraphim. Remember what the seraphim was? What was that?
Flying snake.
A flying red snake with wings, of course, breathing out fire, and that was the ancient idea of the word seraphim. All right, and we have this flying snake in the air now. In Acts the 16th chapter and verse 16, we have a snake there that is inspiring this woman that is a fortune teller there, and it's called in Greek a pythona. What is there's a word like that in English?
Python.
Python. All right, python in English is very, very similar. I better shut this off, huh? That's the way Abraham traveled when he crossed from the Middle East. That's what that is about.
Sorry for being late.
And this is for you. I forgot to give these to you this morning.
Sorry about that.
Before I forget. All right. We're in Revelation 13 and verse number 2, the last part of it. We're talking about the dragon. The dragon, the great old snake, the devil. And that goes all the way back to Genesis, the 3rd chapter, doesn't it? Genesis, the 3rd chapter. Nahash, the devil. All right. Can you say Nahash? Nahash. That's the deceiving serpent also. He's been known as the serpent all the way from the book of Genesis through Revelation. He has never changed. He's still the deceiving serpent. And what it says there in Revelation, the 3rd chapter, it says, and the serpent became deceptive, a deceiver. He became. Now, God didn't make him that way. He became that way. When God made Satan, did he make him evil? No. He did not. He became that way. All right. Now, let's look here in Revelation, the 13th chapter, and verse number 2. Dan, are you there?
I am.
Oh, okay.
Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard, and his feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. The dragon gave him his power, his throne, and great authority.
All right. Now this is a figurative language. It's talking about this bear. Now, if you go back to Daniel, the 7th chapter, and verse 8, and Daniel 8, 23 to 25, and 9, 26, and 27, and they should be cross-referenced in the linear that I wrote in there. We have a therion up there. That's what it calls him. What is a therion? Remember what that therion was? That beast?
Oh, faster?
He's a fast-moving, killing machine. That's what a therion is. Something that moves fast, and he's a killing machine. Okay? Like a land shark. He's like a great white shark on land. Okay? He's a fast-moving, killing machine. It says he kept on being like a leopard. A leopard. What does a leopard do? Have you got any house cats around your place? House cats can work you over with their claws and their teeth, can't they? If you look in their mouth, they even got thorns on their tongues. They'll lick the meat off of a bird or something with those tongues. A lion, his tongue is much stronger. He's got much stronger claws and teeth also. This leopard. And it said to feed him as the arco, as the bear. Okay? What kind of feet does a bear have?
Big claw.
Very powerful. I remember a friend of mine moved to Alaska, and he was going to go out and hunt for a Kodiak bear. The Kodiak is a kind of a big grizzly bear. That's a big brown bear. You been up there, Dave? No. He went out there. He had an international harvester, one of those like a Jeep, but it was all enclosed. I can't remember the name of those.
Scout.
Scout. A big, heavy-duty Scout. International Scout. And he parked that, he left his lunch in that, and he was going to go hunt this Kodiak bear with a .44 Magnum. He had a Ruger Super Blackhawk 44 Magnum. Okay? He was going to go out there and go this hunting with this big brown, this Kodiak bear. When he came back, the bear had opened up his scout. It just ripped through the heavy metal in those things, just opened it up. Now, a grizzly bear and a Kodiak bear have long claws. It's called the horrible bear in Latin. The horrible, the terrible bear. Yes.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Jim, but B&D Surplus on Rosedale Highway has one in their
They got a
office.
big Kodiak bear in there. Yeah.
It stands up about 12 to 14 feet tall.
Oh yeah, that's big. Anyway, their claws are very long. Now, black bear has short claws. Black bear climb trees. Okay, but the Kodiaks don't. They don't have to because they have long claws, and those claws can cut an animal like a razor. And just cut them half in two. Now, what it's saying here is the feet of him like a bear. A bear is extremely destructive and very powerful. Okay, and the mouth of him as a mouth of a lion. Leontos. Leo the lion, that came right out of Greek. Leontos. All right, like a lion. What does lion mean in Greek? Do you remember what that really, how you translate it? Sharp eyes. Sharp. Cats can see really well, can't they? All right. They've got a terrible mouth, but also they can see and find you. And it says in the dragon, the power of him and the throne of him and the authority is great. Okay? It's talking about the devil and this swift-moving Antichrist, the false prophet. We're going to talk about them and all of this. Let's go on a little bit further now. 13 and verse 3. And one out of the heads of him as having been slain. Let's look at that. Brother Dan, if you're still there?
Yep.
All right.
And I saw one of his heads as if it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed. And all of the world marveled and followed the beast.
All right. Let's look at this from the original language now. And this one out of the heads of him, okay, having been beaten to death. That's what it means. He was beaten to death. He was struck a death-dealing blow. The word there is plague. And it said he was plagued unto death. All right? Unto death. Thanatos. Separation. He was dead. Now, yes, Brother Rex.
Okay, it says one of his heads.
One of the heads.
What were the other ones?
All right. Well, we're gonna see all this here. This is at least there may be three of them. This may be a triune being. Remember, we have Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, don't we?
Yes.
And we have the unholy Trinity now, turned loose on earth. All right, now there may be three of them, or it may be three person acting like one. Okay, we got a lot of different. Yes.
Is he just giving this to let you see how bad the devil is, or will
It's telling
really
you what
look like
really is
that?
going to happen. Now, up here, according to this map of the ages here, we're dealing with a period of time right here. This is right here now. This is the church age that we live in. The church age
But
is
we
over.
won't see him like this, will we?
I don't think so. I don't want to.
That's what it was.
Like Zola Levitt said. Any of you ever seen Zola Levitt? Zola Levitt was a believing Jew. Okay? Zola Levitt said, they asked him a lot of times, are you going to go into the tribulation period and go into the kingdom? He said, no. I'm Jewish, all right, but I am a believer. Now, some of my brothers are going to go in there. The tribulation period is to bring Israel back to God. It's going to get ready. Israel will rule on this earth for 1,000 years. The kingdom of God will be upon this earth. 1 out of every 6 people is going to be left. That's all. 5 out of 6 people, Gentiles, are going to be killed before the end of this. And 2 out of every 3 Jews are going to be killed. All right? And that's what's going to take place during this tribulation period. But the whole tribulation period is to bring Israel back to God. God's not finished with them. All right, now let's go. One of the heads, like being slain unto death, a stroke, a plague. All right, the stroke of death, and it was healed. The word. Have you ever heard of the word therapeutic? All right, that's what it says. He was healed. He was healed. Therapeutio. All right, he was therapeutically healed. All right, and it says the whole Our word whole comes right out of the word hole in Greek. See, that's a real common, isn't it? That you didn't have to learn that Greek word. It came right out of English. The entire earth. Now, this is what we call a hyperbole. What is a hyperbole? You know what a hyperbole is?
It's not exactly true.
All right. It's not exactly true, yeah. All right. This is where it comes from. Okay. Hyper and follow. Hyperbole. Our English word hyperbole it means to what? What's hyper? If you got hyperglycemia, what do you have? High blood sugar. All right? Over. It's higher than what opposite. So this is up and it's high. Okay? And then the word ball in English came from this word. What do you do with a ball?
Down.
Throw it. All right? So this word, literally, a hyperbole, means to throw over. What would you call that in English? In common vernacular. All right? What would we call this? Huh? This is what you call an exaggeration.
Yeah.
An exaggeration. Jesus used exaggerations, hyperboles. Can anyone name one of them? When did he ever say something that really wasn't true? But it meant, yes, brother.
Pick up this mountain and tell it to go over there.
Yeah, just pick it up and throw it over there. All right, now you can do that, but you've got to take a lot of work. Okay. Now it says he talked to the Jews one time. He said, "You strain out the gnats out of your wine." Strain gnats out of your wine. But what did he say that they did?
Swallow a camel.
You swallow a camel in one go. Now, has anyone here ever swallowed a camel? How about a small one? You ever swallowed one? No, you haven't swallowed a small camel either, because it's impossible, huh? But he used that. That's what we call a hyperbole, an exaggeration. It's a figure of speech. Okay. Now the whole earth didn't marvel after this beast, but much of it did. A great amount of the earth did. This is what we call a hyperbole. Okay. How many of you ever heard of hyperbole before tonight? Nobody. All right, young lady, you've been studying. You know what hyperbole is. All right. The whole world wandered. Look at that word, thamase. That means struck out of their senses. That's what it means, thamase. All right. Marveled the whole earth after the therion, this swift-moving killing machine. And then it says they fell down before and they worshipped. They fell down before and they worshipped the dragon, the dragon. All right. And he gave the authority to the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him?" All right. Here we have the devil deceiving the whole world. In Genesis 3:1, it says, "And the serpent," there, the Nahash, "became more deceptive than all the beasts of the field." Now, he became that way. Now, here we have the devil. Who is the father of all lies? Satan. All right, that's who he is. All right, 13 and verse 5. Roy, are you over there? 13 and 5.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, okay.
And he was given a mouth speaking great things and
Blasphemies.
blasphemy, and he was given authority to continue for 42 months.
All right. Now, that's 42 months is how long? 3.5 years. All right. The first 3.5 years of this tribulation period, he's going to come in and he's going to make a truce with all the nations under his power. And this guy is over the western nations, by the way. That's where he is. Who's going to be fighting him in the end? What are the nations going to be fighting this dude? What are some of the nations? Brother John, you remember what nations are going to come against this man?
Oh, it's going to be the Islamic nation.
Okay, the Islamic nations are going to go against him, the African nations. All right. Who else? Russia and China. All right, these are going to be fighting against him. And who's on his side now?
Fighting against
The Antichrist.
The Antichrist.
The Antichrist, and the Antichrist is over all the Western nations. Guess what part America plays in this?
Why would they be fighting for, since they hate America anyway, why would they fight against the Antichrist to conquer us?
The Antichrist will be over all the Western nations. Okay? Who makes up the Western bloc now, by the way?
Europe and America.
Europe and America. All right? All the Western nations, basically. That's who makes up the Western bloc. Okay? Now we have the wars. Now, is the world set aside like that right now?
Somewhat.
Yeah. Just
Somewhat.
guess. You know, what's going on here?
Right.
We got some seats over here, girl, and right there, not too far from and goodies over there too. We're in Revelation 13 and number 5. It said it was given to him a mouth, a stoma, a mouth, okay? A mouth speaking. All right, this guy could speak. Lalon, speaking. All right? That means human speech, by the way. Lalon, it means to speak with your tongue, your throat, your vocal cords, and all of that. Speaking great, megale. When you megasize something at McDonald's, what do? Get something big, all right? Something big. And then the word blasphemios. Blasphemy. What is blasphemy?
Saying bad things against someone.
Saying bad things against someone. All right. Now let's look at some of the terms in Hebrew. Now, Hebrew is really a picturesque language. All right. All right. One of the words in Hebrew that we use, that we get the word blasphemy from, is barak. 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 All right. Barak. Now, barak means to insult, or to bless, or to curse, or to bless. It can mean either one. All right. Now, this Satan, he is cursing God. He's cursing God, and he's saying against God. Okay. That's the first word, barak. Then we have another word which means gadeth. Gadeth. All right, G-A-D-E-P-H, basically. Gadeth. That means to cut. To cut. And to slice. That means to cut somebody down. All right, to cut somebody down. It means to revile. It means to defame. All right. Another word is charath. C-H-A-R-A-P-H. That means to cut in, to expose, to defame also. The word blasphemo, that's Latin. And blasphemare, that's Latin. We get our word right out of English, right out of that. And the Latin comes out of what language, do you think? The Greek. All right, the Greek. All right. Then there's another word. It's kalaniari. Kalaniari. And that means to deceive, it means to defame, it means to slander. Slander. Build up a false lies about somebody. What happened in Genesis, the 3rd chapter? Has the devil changed his tactics at all? What did the old devil tell Eve? First of all, you won't die. That's the first lie. And you can be like God. You can be just like God. And then he says, don't believe God. He wants to just keep you from getting the good stuff.
That's right.
Yeah. So is the story any different? Here in the book, Genesis and Revelation. The fourth one is negav. Negav. All right? That means to pierce. It's another word for blasphemy, but it means to pierce. To shoot an arrow into your heart. To destroy. The word diabolos. The word name diabolos. Remember? Diabolos. It's Greek. All right? It's Spanish also. It comes out of Spanish. See, now we looked at one word also, balo. That's on the end of diabolos. All right? Now let's look at that word diabolos. Dia means what? Through. It means to throw through. The word blasphemy in this word right here, all right, nagav, it means that exact thing. The word devil, it means to destroy and kill. To kill. All right? That's what it means, to kill. Blaspheme. Now, the old devil, with words, is trying to destroy the character of God. There's nothing new about that, is there? All right? Destroy the character of God, and he has authority, exousia, that word exousia there, authority for 3.5 years. to do this. All right? 3.5 years. 13 and verse 6 now. Brother John, what do you have there? What kind of you want to read that for me?
New American Standard.
All right, that'll work.
And he opened his mouth in blasphemies against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, that is, those who dwell in heaven.
All right, now let's look at this word just a little bit. He opened up his great mouth, all right, for the purpose of blaspheming. Now he's going to cast this all over the world. And he's going to say, look at me. The God killed one of my men, and I raised him from the dead. Now, he's saying that he has a power over death, resurrection. He has a power of resurrection now. Now, who has the power of the anastasia of the resurrection? Jesus said, when he was talking to Mary and Martha, they came to him and they said, if you were here, our brother would not have died. And Jesus said what?
Resurrection.
I am the resurrection and I am the life. Now the old devil is imitating God, isn't he? He's an imitator. That's what he is, an imitator. All right, to blaspheme the God, and of course we looked at these 4 different words in Hebrew that brought them in the Greek and Latin. And the name of him, the word name there also means the authority of God. Now if God kills this dude, if he's killed somehow, and then the devil raises him, what is he trying to say? That he is stronger than God. Now when the old devil, according to Ezekiel 28 and Isaiah 14, the devil, when he rebelled against God, and this is long back in eternity past, how many angels and spirits did he take with him?
Multitudes.
He took a lot of them, and mathematically he took 1/3. Okay? Now how do you think he talked those dudes into following him? With that mouth.
He deceived them some way.
Huh? He deceived them. He deceived. Now, angels and spirits are what we call supernatural beings, aren't they?
Giants.
They live. There is no end to their life. You can't kill them. All right. Now, we are what we call mortal. Mortal. That means related to death. But these things, how do angels war in heaven? I really don't know. I guess there's angels' hair and feathers flying all over the place, but they are warring somehow or another. I don't know whether they're shooting balls of fire and power and energy at each other or what it is, but they're doing something warring. But here, one of his great men, leaders, what?
What number was that? Ezekiel what?
38.
Ezekiel 38 and Isaiah 14. It's right up on that chart right up there. All right? All right. Great blasphemies. Now he blasphemes the name of God or the authority of God, the power of God. He blasphemes God's power because he says, see, I'm overtaking God. I'm overcoming God. Now, see there, all you thirds of the angels and spirit world that followed me, hey, you did the right thing. All right? And he said the tabernacle is Canaan. Now, we studied the tabernacle this morning in our class here, the tabernacle of God. That tabernacle stood for the Lord himself. And secondarily, it represents God's people, okay, his church, okay? And he said he blasphemed the tabernacle of God in the heaven. The ones tabernacling with God. Now Daniel 11, 36 through 39, 2 Thessalonians 2 and 4, and we want to go there, 2 Thessalonians 2 and 4. All right? And Daniel 11, 20 through 28, Revelation 7, 15, and 12 and 12. These are all cross-references to this. And if you have the linear here, the cross-references are in that. By the way, this thing I handed out to some of you, that was my doctor's thesis from my doctor of Bible languages, and they printed it. So,
What does that cost?
what?
What does that cost?
I think you already have one of them. It's $15. They printed it, and that booklet cost $15. It cost me $75 to photocopy of this thing, so that's a great bargain. All right. Now, 2 Thessalonians 2 and 4. Are you there, Kathy?
Yeah.
Can you read that real loud?
Okay. Who opposes and exalts himself above every so-called God of
or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, displaying himself as being God.
Okay, now go back. Was that 2, verse 2?
That was verse 4.
Okay.
Chapter 2, verse 4.
Okay, 2 and verse about, just start with verse number 1 and go through number 5.
Okay.
Just real loud.
Okay. Now we request you, brethren, with regard to the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ and our gathering together to him, that you may not be quickly shaken from your composure, or be disturbed either by a spirit or a message or a letter as if from us, to the effect that the day of the Lord has come. Let no one in any way deceive you, for it will not come unless
The man of sin?
comes first, and the man lawlessness is revealed, the son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself above every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, displaying himself as being God. Do you not remember that while I was still with you, I was telling you these things?
All right, now Paul warned us this is going to happen. John in the book of Revelation tells us, even Daniel told us this was going to happen. In the book of Genesis, it talks about this in Genesis 3 and verse 15. It talks about the great war that's going to take place. Through all time, this is what we call the conflict of the ages. And I mean ages. That conflict started back in eternity past. Okay? And it goes all the way through time. All right? The conflict of the ages. Make sure this thing didn't turn off over here forever. It did? Now I got her going again. Wound it up. Can't have that air conditioner going off in this kind of a day. Yes.
Who do they mean when they say, and those who dwell in heaven?
Those
The saints that were gone in the rapture?
yes, these are the people that are in heaven, okay?
Well,
And
that would be pretty
he's
good.
blaspheming all of heaven. He's blaming us too, and saying, well, he's going to take us down. He said, I'm going to take you and I'm going to take God and all his people down. I'm going to overcome everybody. But in verse number 7 now, 13 and verse number 7, it tells you what's going to happen. Brother David, are you there? Revelation 13 and 7. Just go right over there in your translation. All right. The only thing that the Satan has is what God allows him. He's on a short chain, people. All right, Brother David.
Revelation 13:7. It was granted to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And authority was given him over every tribe, tongue, and nation.
All right. Now, who are the people on the earth that are saved at this time? There are going to be a lot of people saved during the tribulation period. All right. We call them tribulation saints. But also, who else? Who is God directly dealing with to bring them back to him? Israel. The Jews. All right. How many went to the Friends of Israel conference and stuff like that we had here a while back? All right. Talks about that. Israel is still in the mind of God. Israel is still God's nation. That's his nation. Now the old Antichrist is going to take him for a while. Now who's got Israel right now? The old devil's got them. What did they do there to the Messiah that came to them, the God of heaven? They crucified him. All right, they crucified him. But someday God is going to get them to be ready to be used of him for 1,000 years. All right? About in the middle of this here period of time, right in the middle of it, they're going to figure out this is a false Messiah. All right? Right in the middle of it. For 3.5 years, they're going to be on a honeymoon. But at that, right in the middle of that 7-year period of time, we're going to get to this a little bit later. But Jesus talked about the roadway, the highway of the rooftops. How many of you have heard of that? The highway of the rooftops. All right? It tells them, and in different places in the New Testament, Jesus told them, now, when you see this abomination, desolation takes place, now it happened once before, didn't it? When did it happen before? There was a guy back in the Old Testament period of time that was a type of the Antichrist. What was his name? Antiochus Epiphanes. All right? He went in there, he desecrated the temple of God, said, I am God. I am Theos. All right? I am God. To all the people, and then he offered swine on the altar of sacrifice in Jerusalem. Well, the Maccabees got back in control of that, and they started a holiday over that, and Jesus celebrated that holiday. And what was that holiday called when they took the temple back?
Feast of Lights.
The Feast of Lights, or Hanukkah, or the dedication of the temple. That's what it's called about, okay? All of these things, that's what it was. They took it back, all right? And, of course, the old devil has always worked. When Jesus came to Israel, the wrong man was on the throne of Israel. Esau's descendant was on the throne of Israel, not Jacob's. Who was the promised son? Who was the heir? Esau or Jacob? Jacob. The wrong man was on the throne, people. Look how Satan has worked down through the ages. He's been busy, hasn't he? Every time the Lord does something, the Lord founded His churches, and the devil founded thousands of them. I'm telling you. We talked about that a little bit this morning in the tabernacle. Given him authority to Nikesah, the word Nico, all right? Nicolaitan in the book of Revelation, that uses that term Nicolaitan. That was much earlier in the book of Revelation. Remember what Nicolaitan meant? That means people conquerors, lording over people, all right? The word here, the Nike shoes that people, that they sell, Nike. How many of you ever had any Nike shoes? That means conquering shoes, okay? That's what Nike means. It says to conquer them, and it was given to him authority over every tribe, phyle, every dialect, every ethnic background, and people, and every language and nation, all right? Now, he's powerfully trying to grab the whole world. When Jesus, when he was when he started his ministry, for 40 days he went out into the wilderness, didn't he? All right. Now, the wilderness in the Bible is a type of what? Every move, the wilderness. Remember when they took the scapegoat out in the wilderness? That's called and known as the devil's territory. Okay, remember that. That is the devil's territory. The AZL, the devil's territory. That's what it was called. Now, when Jesus was tempted, he was taken out into the devil's territory to be tempted. Jesus said, you cannot overcome a man except that you go into the territory of the strong man. All right? And you overcome him at home, right there where he lives. Now, what did God do? The devil's been on a lease plan here ever since Adam sinned and handed over the temporary title deed to this whole earth to Satan. Now, we've had to live with that, haven't we? Because of what Adam did to us. But one of these days, God's going to take it back, and thank God that we're real close to the end. I believe we are. Okay? It said every tribe and every language and every ethnic background. Ethnos. That's what it means, ethnic background. 13 and verse 8 now. 13 and verse 8. Are you over there anywhere, Terry? Or Ruth? How about Ruth? 13 and 8. Ruth.
And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. All right, let's go look at this, because this is a pretty good verse also. Are you discovering some neat things from the original language in here? There's some good stuff in here, I'm telling you people. When you do it in English only, you really don't get it all. Now, that girl sitting right back here, do you see her? Shirley? Mm-hmm. Now, that girl said, I want you to read this from Greek. Because it's neat to find out what this says. We were started out in English. We're doing it in English anyway, but we're getting some Greek words. We look at every verse, and then we look at it in Greek. Now, it says they bent the knee toward him. Willingly they bent the knee toward him. That's what it means, to bend the knee toward. They worshipped him. All the ones dwelling. Now, here again, upon the earth. What is this called? What figure of speech? Not everyone did, but what kind of a figure of speech is this? What is it called? A hyperbole. It's an exaggeration now. There's some that didn't. All those that are being saved at this time. Now, when you're saved during this period of time, you're going to have to die for what you believe. That's it. The Jews, 2/3 of the Jews are going to die during this period of time. All the ones dwelling upon the earth. And then it says, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh. All right? That means no, not. No, not, or not, not. or no, no. Adverb of negation. That who, no, not. All the ones that are dwelling upon the earth will worship him that know not, having been written the name of him in the Bible, the Biblium, in the scroll of life of the Lamb, in the Lamb's book of life is what it says, okay? And when were these people's names written in the Lamb's book of life, according to what we have here in this verse? When were everyone being saved? When were the names written?
Foundation of the world.
Before the very creation of the world.
Foundation.
All right? I want to tell you for right off the bat, now I'm not a hyper-Calvinist. You know what that is? That's a hyper-Calvinist, okay? But I do believe that back in eternity past that God wrote everybody's name in the Lamb's book of life that was going to be saved. Now that's a fact. Anybody that says that, does anything different than that, just doesn't believe the Bible for some reason or other. I mean, that's what it says, isn't it? When were your names written in the Lamb's book of life? Brother Rex, when it was written?
What's it?
In eternity past. When was your name written in the Lamb's book of life, Brother David?
Eternity past.
In eternity past. But when did you believe? In space and time, didn't you? God promised back there in eternity past, he set down what we call a redemption plan back in eternity past. He had a redemption plan. And he said that he would become related to his creation. He was going to become man and God at the same time. That's what the person of Jesus is. He's God-man. Okay? And then he's going to redeem all mankind back to himself. And that's the plan that God was going to make. Okay? Now, when did that take place? Did it take place in eternity past, or did that take place in time and space? Did Jesus really come?
Yes.
John 1:14 is the absolute fulfillment of the Jehovah title. Jehovah means what? He who shall become. All right? God said, I shall become. In Genesis 2 and verse 4, he begins to use the name Jehovah Elohim, or we say that word Jehovah, but like I've said before, there's no way we can pronounce that name. We don't know how to pronounce it. Once that they were given the law of Moses, where it says, thou shalt not use the Lord thy name, the Lord thy God's name in vain, they never spoke his name again. They were afraid to. So they never used the name Jehovah. They referred to him as Adonai. All right, Adonai. When it comes to, when a Jew will read that, he'll say, Adonai Elohim. Adonai Elohim. Adonai means King of Kings, Lord of Lords. That's what it means. All right. They will not use the name Jehovah at all, because they don't know how to say it, for one thing. They wouldn't say it if they could say it, because it's a holy name. All right? But the name Jehovah means he who shall become. Now, John 1:14 is the fulfillment of that title. And the Word, or the Jehovah, flesh, he became and dwelt among us. In the tabernacle, the reason for the tabernacle was that God wanted to dwell with us. When God established his church, the reason for establishing that church, because he wanted to dwell with man on this earth during this period of time that we live in here. All right? Let's go on a little further. It says our name, that the Lamb having been slain from the foundation of the world, Jesus Christ tasted the throes of death since eternity past. Did you know that? God is omniscient, isn't he? He knows all things. Do you think Jesus knew what the cross was going to feel like and those whip marks across his back? Sure he did. And he was slain from before the foundation of the earth. He felt that. But in space and time it happened. What did Jesus do in the Garden of Gethsemane? He sweat great drops of blood because he knew what was going to happen. And then he began to sweat blood. And he began to be cut to ribbons and shreds with those cat o' nine tails. And then they drew over the nails to his carpal tunnel area. How many of you had carpal tunnel problems? You just tap on that just a little bit when you got carpal tunnel problems. Yeah. What's it feel like? Electrical shock. Well, you drive a nail through that and see what happens. And both hands, and then through your feet, to the ankles where they drove them, through his feet. And then hang there for about 6 hours like that.
I've got a
He
question.
felt it, yes.
Does the world have proof of his blood or DNA?
Of Jesus being here?
No, Jesus dying and when he bled, do they have his blood?
I don't really think so.
I don't either.
I think what happened to all of that blood, it ended up in heaven.
You know what? I don't mean to get off of it,
Yeah.
but something that had impressed upon me and kind of made me come back to church because I got pretty lazy there for several months through operations and stuff like that, is that I was at Getty Museum down south, and here's this huge painting outside that blackboard, and they had angels with golden vases. Every drop of blood, they were catching it.
Uh-huh.
And that's the reason I was asking.
Now, that the Catholic Church did that back then? Oh.
This is, it had nothing to represent Catholic or any religion. It was just a painting.
That was, that happened during that period of time, though, when Michelangelo and all of these, they were drawing all kinds of drawings.
Yeah, this was a
all the pictures of
Michelangelo
Jesus
painting.
were, basically, all the pictures they drew of Jesus were Anglo-Saxon people that lived in the 14, 13, 14, and 1500s at that time. And the table where he's sitting at the Last Supper and all that kind of stuff just didn't happen.
Yeah, no.
It wasn't like that.
It was a Michelangelo painting,
Yeah.
and it had no other name, no religion, title.
Yeah. But
it had-
Michelangelo worked for the Catholic Church.
For the
Okay,
popes
Yeah, there
pay
you go.
him, didn't they?
You know, that's what?
Didn't the popes pay him or that?
Yeah,
some of the
they
rich
paid him to do the Sistine Chapel, a lot of the work and everything. But this was their idea of what it was, and that they were catching all this blood and everything.
Because it's
But
precious.
I think the blood went to be with God. I think it did. I think it was holy blood. It was the Lord's blood.
Right.
But it also fell to the earth, didn't it? Now remember what the name man means. Adam. What does it mean? What does
Blood.
Adam mean?
From blood?
Huh? It means, well,
Life.
Adamah in Hebrew means the earth. Adamah. Okay? The word Adam, or Adam, means of the earth, related to the earth. And then in the middle of that word, it's the Hebrew word, I don't want to scare you off with this thing, but it looks like this. All right? That's it. Dam. In the middle of the name Adam is Dam. In the middle of the name of the earth, Adamah, is Dam. That's blood. In your blood is all the chemicals that's in this earth. When the Lord came to this earth, he was related to this earth. He redeemed the earth too. He redeemed the whole cosmos back to himself. What is John 3:16? Don't forget what John 3:16 says. God so loved man. What's it say?
Cosmos.
The cosmos. That he gave his only begotten Son. Did Jesus Christ die for the whole cosmos to redeem it all back? He bought it all back, people, because he's related to us. All right?
Nothing was
It's
there.
all written. Mary.
They talk about the shroud might be Jesus. That's the only place that might have their blood, if that's true. The shroud.
Well, I don't know whether that's...
Yeah, that's kind of
I don't know whether it's... You know, they've got all... These are all Catholic... You know, you have to go back in church history. I taught a class on church history. I had 26 classes in it. And I taught about a lot of this icon worship and everything. All this took place back then. They had enough splinters from the cross of Jesus to depopulate all of Europe of trees. Okay? I mean, they sold these things. They used to sell this stuff for what we call plenary indulgences. They invented purgatory. They invented indulgences and all this stuff, and they invented a lot of relics. And I believe that's one of the relics that was invented. Now, I don't know when it goes back to that period of time or not, but there was so much of that going around. Moths from Jesus' diapers. All kinds of stuff. I mean, tears and I mean, all kinds of stuff. But that didn't mean anything anyway.
Yeah.
Because we don't worship stuff.
Right.
All right? We worship the Lord.
Right.
We don't worship that which is seen. We worship that which is unseen. That's what the book of Hebrews. I'm teaching
Faith.
Hebrews
Here's
on
faith.
Wednesday night here from Greek, and that's beautiful. We're about to get into Hebrews, the 11th chapter, the faith chapter of the Bible. All right? We must believe that he is 13 and verse 9. Revelation 13 and verse 9. All right. Who's on? Shirley, can you read that for me? It's real loud out there.
If anyone has an ear, let him hear.
All right. Now it says here, if anyone has any ear, let him hear. Now what does it say there in the 3rd and the 4th and 6th chapter? I mean the 3rd chapter especially. 2nd and the 3rd chapter of Revelation. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. Doesn't say church here, does it? No, because church isn't here. As simple as that. It's not talking to the churches. But if anyone has an ear, let him hear. Now, you are responsible for what truth you have received. Did you know that? My old, one of my teachers in the seminary, his name was Darius Sherwood Madden. He was a great big old Cajun, weighed about 375, maybe 400 pounds. A giant of a man. And he was a coarse character. He was a hard man. But he had a heart of gold and just tender-hearted. But he would say anything. He's liable to say anything. When he'd get up and get ready to preach, sometimes when he'd go to preach a revival or something, thanks, Terry. I got to turn this old antique machine over still. When he'd get ready to go preach a revival, he'd get in there, and when he'd get up to preach, he said, "Now, if you're not saved," that's why he talks really low. He said, "If you're not saved and you're here tonight," he said, "you better get out of the church house right now. Leave." He said, "If you're not going to believe when we call you to the Lord, you better leave right now, because you're going to go in a hotter place in hell if you don't believe, because you're responsible for the word then." He said that in the very beginning. I think they were scared to leave. All right, but you are responsible for what truth and revelation you have. 13 and verse 10 now. 13 and verse 10. Brother Rex, are you there?
If anyone is destined for captivity, to captivity he goes. If anyone kills with the sword he must be killed. Here is the perseverance and the faith of the saints.
All right. Well, the book of Revelation is prophecy, is it not? What does the word prophecy mean? Prophecia.
Something that may
Huh?
happen.
It means to say before. The book of Daniel and much of the book of Ezekiel and Joel and Amos and many of these Old Testament prophets, they said what was going to happen before it happened. Isaiah, the 53rd chapter, said exactly what was going to happen to Jesus. The book of Psalms, the 22nd Psalm, it says in the first verse, Jesus quoted that on the cross of Calvary. He said, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani." He said that in Hebrew. Now, when you said one verse in a Hebrew psalm, it meant the whole thing stood. What Jesus said, read the 22nd Psalm, because that is what's happening here today. He quoted the first verse of it, but he said the whole story is right here. The whole psalm is going to take place. My God, why hast thou forsaken me?" That's what it is. Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. All right. One of the writers quotes it in Hebrew, and one of them quotes it in Aramaic. How many of you knew that? One says Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, and the other one says Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. One says Eli, Eli is Hebrew, and Eloi, Eloi, that's Aramaic. All right, I just thought I'd drop that one on you too. Okay, did you catch it? Pretty neat. All right, the faith and the patience of the saints. What does the word saint mean? All right, let's look at the word saint. Who is a saint, by the way?
A believer.
All saved people.
There's the word saint right there. Can you say that word? Anybody read that?
Saint.
Hagios. That's what it is, hagios. In English, it would look like this. All right, hagios. You can probably read my Greek better than my English. But hagios. Hagios. It comes from two Greek words. There's a negative on the front of it. I got to erase some of this. A negative on the front of it there, and then we have this over here. It means not of earth. Not of earth. That's what saint means, not of earth. Okay?
Not
now,
of
not of earth?
Not of earth.
Not of earth. Saint means not of earth. Okay? Now when you're born the first time, you're born of earth, aren't you? You got a mama and a daddy. And both of them is of earth. That we know that the daddy is the one that dooms you.
Yeah.
Because through the blood of Adam we all die. We're all doomed. Alright? But we have a mama and a daddy. Alright? And we're born into sin and we're born to death, to die. We begin the process of dying. Jesus told Nicodemus, he said, to enter into the kingdom of God, you must be what? Born again. It means born from above. That's what it literally means. Ano Ganesa. Born from above. He said you must become saints, not of earth. That's what it means. Now when you're born again, then you are a saint and you're not of earth. As simple as that. You're born the first time in this world. These are pretty simple little illustrations that I'm using here. But when you're triune, aren't you?
Yes.
We looked at the candlestick this morning. How many branches are on the candlestick? 7. 7 branches, but it's 3 and 3. Triune, triune. Triune man, triune God. Simple as that. 6 is the number of man. The 7th one is the middle one, which is the foundation, is God. 7 is the number of perfection, which is God's number. And 6 is the number of man. We looked at the candlestick like that. All right, now let's look at the 3 branches on each side, okay? That's the candlestick. All right? The 3 branches. Man is made up of what? Body, mind, and spirit. All right? In the mind is the soul, okay? The spirit is what gives you life. That's ruach. That is pneuma. The word pneuma, pneumatics means what? Air-powered something. All right? All right? We have pneumonia. You have pneumonia at times. We have spirit, we have mind, and we have body. The body of man we see because we have one. All right? Very easy to see a body. Now you can see what kind of a mind somebody has by what they do with that body. Okay? What are they doing? What are they busy doing? Are they doing God's things or the world's things? Okay? Now the spirit. Now when you come into this world, you've got the spirit of disobedience in you, controlling you. But when you're born again, the spirit of disobedience is kicked out, and you've got the Spirit of God dwelling in you. And that's what marks you for the resurrection. All right? That's when you're born from above. Hagios, not of earth. All right? Do you get that one? That's beautiful too. All right? 13 and verse 10. All right? Some are going to be killed, some are going to live. Whatever is going to happen is going to happen. 13 and verse 11, we have the second beast coming forward. The second beast comes forward. Brother John, what is your brother's name, John?
Sterling.
Sterling. Sterling, would you read that verse there, 13 and verse 11?
And I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon.
All right. Now, here we have a false lamb. We've got a false lamb. We got the false prophets, what we got. A false lamb. It says we see another beast, the therion, the swift-running, killing machine, coming up out of the earth, and he kept on having horns. Look at the word horns. What does the word horn there? Anybody, can you say that word horn now in Greek? How many had eat carrots today? Did anybody eat carrots today?
I did.
Dakota, you ate carrots. You ate carrots today? That's the word karata. Our word carrot comes right out of this Greek word right here, karata. It means a carrot looks like a what? A horn. All right. He had horns, kept on having horns, 2 like a arnu. Now that word, that little ram there, that's the sacrificial lamb. All right, this is a false lamb of God. This is the devil's lamb. All right, we're going to find out he's a billy goat. He's not a lamb at all. He's a false lamb. Okay? And he kept on speaking as a dracon, as a dragon, the great snake. All right, the great snake. 13 and verse 12. 13 and verse 12. This story's getting thick, isn't it? All right, 13 and verse 12, Brother Dan.
And he exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence, and causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed.
All right. Now here we have miracles being performed. We have a miracle of the resurrection. We have this, the devil raising his prophet before his beast, his leader. He is killed somehow or another, and then he raises him. Now, a lot of things happen during this first half of this tribulation period. We have witnesses. We have angels speaking from heaven for God, and we have two prophets that walk upon the earth. Two witnesses. Remember those guys? And we looked at all the different kinds of examples who they could be. But what happened to these two prophets when they slew the bad people and all of this? What happened to the prophets?
Well, after a while, they were slain.
They were slain. All right, they were slain.
They laid there 3 days.
And they laid 3.5 days, just like Jesus did in the tomb. And then they stood up on their feet, the Anastasia. They stood up again. All right, they stood up again. Boy, we're having a lot of miracles in the last days, aren't we?
Yes.
Every time God gets ready to change, miracles are performed. Did you know that? Every time an age is about to change, miracles start being performed. Here in the law, when the time of the law, when Israel was taken out of Egyptian bondage, what happened there? Gobs and hordes of miracles. There were 10 great signs in Egypt, weren't there?
Yes.
What was the first one? When Moses had a rod, and he loaned it to Aaron. And what did he do before Pharaoh? He threw that rod down, and what kind of rod was that? You learned this morning what kind of rod that was.
Yeah.
That was an almond branch.
Almond branch.
That's an almond branch. That's what it was. It came from an almond
Picture
tree.
this morning.
Yeah. He threw that almond branch down, and that almond branch became a serpent. Nahash. Okay? It became a serpent. And then the magicians of Egypt threw down their rods, and what happened to their rods? They became serpents. But what happened to God's rod? God's. He ate them up. Now, I'm going to tell you something. That preview is coming contraction. That's what's going to happen in the book of Revelation, too.
He was hungry.
I'll tell you. That's what's going to happen in the end time. There are going to be lots of miracles. Now, when Jesus came to the earth, he had messianic credentials. His messianic credentials. What was one thing that Jesus did that no prophet ever did in the Old Testament? What was the one thing that was strictly a messianic credential? He raised the dead. Some of the guys in the Old Testament raised the dead. Some of the people in the Old Testament healed lepers, which was absolutely a sign of God.
Took demons out and put them in other things.
Well, he did that too. But what was the one special thing that Jesus did, which was a messianic credential? He healed the blind. He healed the blind. That was something that only the Messiah would do. He healed the blind. Okay. Now, there was a lot of miracles took place right here at the end of this age. There's there's what we call penal miracles. Penal miracles? All right. My wife, we checked our DNA the other day, and she found out that some of her people were prisoners in a penal colony in Australia and Tasmania.
How do you do that? How do you do that?
Oh, you have to send off for that. You put this swab on the inside of your mouth, you send it off. And they tell you where all of your people came from.
Oh,
well, anyway, some of them went down to penal colonies in Australia. I don't want to get off on that one too much. But anyway, they went there. Penal colonies.
It happens.
There are penal miracles.
It
Okay?
does, huh?
Penal miracles. Judgment miracles. The dividing of this earth was a judgment miracle. The flood on this earth was a judgment, a penal miracle. Okay? And in the last days, we're going to have all kinds of penal miracles in this time. Judgment miracles. Judging people. All right, number 13 and 12. Did we look at that?
Not 13.
No.
Number 12. We looked at 12. All right. And we find out that the authority of the first beast he has, and he works before him, and he makes the earth, the ones upon the earth, dwelling, and they shall worship, fall down and worship toward the beast, the first beast, which had been healed of the death stroke of him. 13 and verse 13. We're about to finish here in just a little bit. 13 and verse 13. Brother Mike, are you there?
And he performs great signs, so that He even makes fire come down out of heaven to the earth in the presence of men.
All right, now the devil, he makes fire come down out of heaven, out of the sky, to the earth. How many of you ever seen that happen?
Lightning.
Lightning. But this is more than lightning. Lightning is very powerful, it's very hot. You know, lightning is hotter than the sun. Do you know that? It's hotter than the sun when lightning hits. It is very powerful, it is very scorching. But now it says here, he said he can make. The word there, to perform, it means to make. All right, to make. Our word poem comes from that in English. We make words rhyme. This word to make there. He makes great signs, senia, miracles, wonders, deceiving wonders. All right? He may make some giant being in the sky stand up there and talk to you. Why, you know, there's all kinds of magicians today, and what do they call those guys? They don't call them magicians anymore. Illusionists?
Illusions.
All right. They do all kinds of stuff. They can make you see things, all this mass hypnosis, whatever, you know. Now this guy's going to be able to do that, and they are megale, they are great. And fire. He's going to cause it to come out of the heaven. All right. That means the atmosphere there, the heaven, not the heavens. The word in Genesis 1:1 it says Barashith bara Elohim et Hashemayim. It says, in one of the beginnings, plural, created God the heavens. And the word heavens there is plural, Hashemayim. Okay? This is not plural. This is singular. So where is the first heaven? On the earth. Now, it didn't come down out of the abode of God.
He was in
All right, let's look at that
the
just
Garden
real
of
quick.
Eden.
All right? Let's look at the heavens. Here is the earth. We got a ball here we call the earth. The first heaven is the atmosphere. The second heaven is where all the stars and the galaxies and everything are. And then the third heaven is what? The abode of God. That's the Hashemayim. All right? That's the Uranos in Greek. You know, the language of the Bible is very beautiful. I've been teaching Greek and Hebrew for 40 years. All right? But one thing that I've learned, I believe in the inspiration of the Bible. I believe that the Word of God is inspired, God-breathed in the original languages. Not in the translations, but in the original languages. And I believe in the original languages that every mode, tense, and voice, and verb, everything is inspired of God. Look here. That proves it. One of the times it proves it right here. It's coming down out of the atmosphere, the first heaven, not this heaven. It didn't come out of the abode of God. Now when God drives something down, it comes down out of this heaven. All the way to the earth.
Could you repeat all those again?
All right. We have the
earth,
atmosphere. The atmosphere,
atmosphere.
that word is Greek. All right, the breathing space. And then we have the second heaven is where the galaxies and stars and all that is. And then the third heaven, way up there to the third heaven, is the abode of God. All right? And I think down to the third heaven below is going to be the abode of Satan, way out yonder. All right, Brother Roy.
Just real fast, he was talking about lightning. When I was younger, I was told, and I don't remember where it was, but he said that Michael the archangel had threw Satan upon the earth like lightning. Is that true?
Well, Jesus said, I think it's in Luke 10:13, 10:18, something like that. I mean, I used to remember all this stuff. I had 2 strokes, so my brain's not
Yeah,
as good as
I
it
don't
used
know,
to
I
be.
just
But it
asked.
says he saw Satan fall to the earth as a bolt of lightning. All right. We know that according to Daniel, we know in the book of Job. We studied here. Remember, a few weeks ago we studied about the warfare that God had with the angels had and all that. Okay. But we find that he's going to cause fire to come down out of heaven, out of the atmosphere, and it's going to amaze all of these people upon the earth, mankind. The anthropos, actually, it means all of mankind. We got a word anthropology from the Greek word for mankind. Anthropology, anthropos, okay? All right, in the presence of all these people. 1 Kings 18:38, Luke 9:54, Revelation 16:14, 19, 20, 11, 15, 20, and verse 9. These are cross-references, this. And Jesus promised great signs to his disciples in John 14 and verse 12. But he also warned them that false Christ would come and they would do wonders and signs in Luke and Mark 13 and verse 22. And then Paul warned, as we read in 2 Thessalonians 2 and verses 1 through 5 all the way down to verse 9, that in the last days that Satan would perform miracles. And he would deceive many. There would be many miracles and many signs. All right? Are you guys ready to quit yet?
No.
Huh? You want one more?
Yeah.
Let's go then. Young lady, what is your name again?
Jean.
Jean.
Sure.
Jean, do you want to read this verse for you?
Sure.
All right. Verse number 14.
Because of the signs he was given power to do on behalf of the first beast, he deceived the inhabitants of the earth. He ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived.
All right. Let's go back and look at all of this now. There's some things in here. It says he leads them astray. Our word planet comes from this. Planet. What does a planet do? A planet stays in an orbit. If it gets out of orbit, you have destruction, don't you? The word hamartia. All right, my students know what hamartia means. All right? What does hamartia mean? The Greek word hamartia. Huh? It doesn't mean to miss the mark. I've heard it so many times. Just because Thayer put it in one lexicon, he says hamartia means to miss the mark. People have been led astray for that ever since. Hamartia means to go out of bounds, and to go out. It causes destruction when he goes out of bounds. Okay, that's what the word hamartia means. Okay, the word planet. When a planet is in orbit, it's everything's just fine. Everything's going along just fine. But if something went out of orbit, they say that there's a star come flying out of orbit right now, coming toward the universe, coming toward the Earth, and it's supposed to hit the Earth about 20 and 12. How many of you heard of that? All right, have you heard of that, Brother Ray? Yeah. All right. I don't know whether that's true or not, but it's causing destruction. When a space jump. How many of you ever heard space jump? How many of you heard space jump? Have you heard space jump? How many of you ever heard it? I did. I was up in Fish Lake Valley where I used to live, and one afternoon, it was in the evening, and I had my back door open to my radio room. I was talking on the radio up there, and all of a sudden it sounded like 1,000 trains were coming. The whole earth was shaking. And I looked up, and the whole sky lit up. Wow. And you could hear this roaring sound just come over Fish Lake Valley. I said, man, something's coming out of the sky. What, do we have an atom bomb here? What in the world's going on? Finally found out it was space junk coming into the atmosphere and hit about 500 miles further.
Yeah. Fire.
I got too close to it then. But during this period of time, there's going to be 100-pound hailstones hit this earth. There's going to be fire hitting this earth. All kinds of stuff. There's going to be all kinds of penal miracles during this period of time. All right, miracles of judgment. And it says here, and he leads the ones dwelling upon the earth through signs, Samion, okay? It was given to him in the presence of the beast, saying to the ones dwelling upon the earth, he says to them, you make an icon. Icona. All right? Icona. You make an icon. You make an image of this beast. Now they're going to start image worshiping. All right? Now we already have that started on the earth, don't we? Well, they got images of Buddha, they got images of St. Peter and Paul and everybody else, and people bow down and worship these things. This is just previews of coming attraction. Because the Satan, it comes from the same source. All right? The same source. Do you know what? People bow down and worship rocks. Did you know that? They do. They worship rocks. They worship carved things. Of course, God doesn't like that very much, does he? He hates it. In the Word of God, he hates it. People do this, but what causes people to do that? What causes people to do that? The power of demon spirits causes it. What gives them the power to draw demon spirits? It's just going to be magnified greatly in the last time. All right? And then it says they worship the image of the beast. the one who had the stroke of death put upon him, and he lived. All right, he came back to life. All right, demon and devil worship. This is where we're going to have devil worship. And the devil is going to be worshipped through this beast. Okay? And the devil is going to be very happy. He is. He's going to be worshipped. I remember an old movie called The Devil and Daniel Webster. Anybody ever remember that movie?
I've heard that.
All right, that's a kind of a funny movie in a lot of ways. And the old devil out there, he's talking to this guy, and I trying to remember who played the devil. But anyway, he said, all I ever wanted to do was just to be noticed and to be worshipped. That's all I tried. I just tried to do like God, and I got in trouble. Well, right here, he's going to play like God, and he's going to get the whole world in trouble. Some of those people, once they take his mark, what happens? That's the end of the story, people. Once they've taken his mark, once they become a worshiper of him, they are done. Thank you for your attention tonight. Do you have any questions, Brother Rob?
I don't know, maybe asking too much of the class, but in my Bible it has at the bottom 666. I'd like to go and find out what that 666.
We're going to. We're going to get to the 666. That's
I have to wait a week.
Yeah, I know, but that's good. Just think about it now.
I wanted to know today. Raise your hands if I could hear it. Everybody wants to go home.
That's what we're going to study about. I wore them out now. 666 means man, man, man. Triune man. All right? The number is man, man, man. God's going to turn man loose on man. But we're going to see a little bit more about that later. But that's what it means.
You promise.
It's the mark. It's the mark of the Antichrist. Okay? It's the mark of the Antichrist. Anything else? I hope you learned something from God's Word tonight. Come back next. Yes.
I learned that you didn't do it tonight. No.
That was a messianic credential. That was going to be a credential that only the Messiah did. And the man that, the man that had been blind all his life that Jesus healed, they threw his parents out of the synagogue. Did you know that? The Jews threw his parents out of the synagogue.
Is that in the Old Testament?
That's in the New Testament. In the New Testament. All right, that's where it happened. And they started fighting. They were really complaining when Jesus healed the blind. They accused him of being a doctor practicing medicine on the Sabbath and all this kind of stuff. All right. I'm going to turn you loose on the world. Go out this week and do something eternal. And Brother Dave, would you dismiss us in prayer, please, brother?
Jeremy, Father, thank you for this lesson we've had today. For pastors, he studies